Winter is coming.
And since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle, and welcome back to Winter is Coming!
But before we get started, let's get one thing out of the way. We all know what the name of today's subject rhymes with, so let's just get this over with.
Felicio! There! We done now? We good? Can we move on?
Meet Snow Job. This figure was released in 1983 with, mostly original body parts. Yeah, his entire body is new, except his upper arms, which he shares with a bunch of other figures, including Snake Eyes. But you can't really tell unless some schmuck on the internet points it out.
I love my job.
This was actually the toy line's first ever cold weather specialist, the granddaddy of them all, if you will. And for a first outing, it was really quite good. The goggles give him an air of mystery, and personally remind me of the movie The Thing for obvious reasons.
It's not all good, though.
Since this toy is from '83, his head only moved from side to side, as they hadn't switched to a ball-jointed neck yet. Also, this particular figure has the worst case of yellowing in my entire collection. Yellowing is when the plastic, usually white plastic, turns darker over time. It can be due to a variety of factors, like exposure to sunlight, cigarette smoke, inferior plastic used, or just plain existing. It doesn't show up that well on camera, but believe me, there's major discoloring there. Lastly, I would have liked to have seen some more paint applications on this guy, like on the various pockets molded on. The detailing we have is good, but it could have been better.
When it comes to his accessories, most are simple, yet elegant and appropriate.
He comes with 2 skis and ski poles, as well as a backpack that stores them when they're not in use. It's uncomplicated and excellent. He also comes with one more iconic accessory. It's a simple laser gun, but it's iconic because it's the model they ended up using as the default gun for most of the Joes in the cartoon series. No doubt so they wouldn't have to keep track of so many different gun types the figures got. Overall, the Snow Job figure is pretty good, especially if you include the accessories, but still, it could have been better. And that was the only toy Snow Job got in the original line. Yeah, instead of making additional figures of him, Hasbro released a different cold weather specialist practically every year, like Frostbite and Iceberg. Meanwhile, Snake Eyes got no less than 7 toys during the original toy run.
7!
Since there was only the one toy from the original line, I'm not gonna stop there, and instead I'll talk about a few that came later. The first up is one from 1997, aka the worst year ever for G.I.Joe figures. And given that, this toy is surprisingly good. The body construction is almost identical to the first, except he's got different upper arms. No doubt because the original toy didn't have unique ones himself.
As for the color scheme...
Well, I like the extra detail on the goggles, making them silver with a black trim, but I'm not too wild about the gray splotches on the body. It looks like somebody vandalized his outfit with a can of spray paint as he was sleeping to get back at him or something. This guy also suffers from yellowing, but strangely enough only on the head and lower arms. The final Snow Job toy I'll talk about is from 2009, and came with a rock slide we talked about last week. It has the same new type of body construction all those movie toys had.
Honestly, I'm not too thrilled with this update.
He just looks too thin for somebody who's supposed to be in dense winter gear. Also, his goggles look stupid on him. Now, I don't want to be too negative here, so I will say the detailing is great. Lots of paint applications, and an actual camo pattern. All of that, well, it does raise the quality of the figure a bit.
There were a few more toys, but as I don't have them, I can't really comment.
Overall, my favorite would still have to be the original, yellowed parts and all. The others aren't bad per se, but they don't really wow me.
We're not totally done with the action figures though.
For completeness sake, I'll mention Snowjob's mold was reused for different characters. One was Whiteout, a brand new Joe from 2000. While I'm pretty sure this guy was made because they lost the copyright to Snowjob temporarily, this isn't like General Tomahawk, where it's the same guy with a new codename. Whiteout is a completely different person. In 2003 and 2005, the mold was used again to create a new version of Frostbite for some reason. Meaning this basic mold has been used 6 different times to represent 3 different characters.
That's gotta be some record.
Yeah, 6. I didn't miscount, I just never mentioned the 2009 version from that old versus new Rockslide pack because I don't have it.
With that said, we can move on to the character, starting with the file card.
And first of all, let's talk about the name. He's called Snowjob because he's a con artist, not because of his skills in cold weather. I have to admit, I'd never heard of the term to describe a con job until G.I.Joe, but according to Merriam-Webster, it's been in use since the 40s.
It's weird the things you learn from G.I.Joe sometimes.
Anyway, Snowjob was a major Olympic biathlon contender and joined the army to get special training and support they give to Olympic athletes. Much to the army's chagrin, he had a change of heart and joined the Joe team.
And you know what? This sounds awfully familiar.
It's almost the exact same thing that happened to Windchill. He was also a biathlon athlete who could have gone Olympic but ended up with the Joes. So they just recycled parts of Snowjob's backstory for Windchill.
Lame.
So that's 2 potential gold medal winners who elected to join the Joes instead. I do have to wonder if any other Olympians would be tempted. I mean, for example, what would Brian Boitano do?
Yes, I know, it's an ancient joke. Hey, if you want topical humor, go watch The Daily Show or something.
The biathlon thing also makes Snowjob an expert marksman, probably why he got the cool laser rifle. The 1997 file card, for some reason, adds that he doesn't like the cold, which was never part of his original character. It's just a weird and unnecessary addition. Moving on to the comic, he first appears in issue 11, The Pipeline Ploy, a story I've reviewed on the show a long time ago. It's a fine introduction. He drives the Polar Battle Bear and, true to his file card, gets a scam going where he tries to trick Rock'n'Roll into giving him money to set up a date with Gung-Ho's sister. Only the sister turns out to be 9 years old.
He shows up in the comic every now and then, but nothing too noteworthy.
He was, however, in Special Missions number 20, even appearing on the cover, which is worth mentioning because that issue came out in 1989, 5 years after they stopped producing the Snowjob action figure. It's nice to see old characters get some love in the series. As for the cartoon, he debuts in the very first miniseries, The Mass Device, but it's rather formulaic.
Both his appearances and the miniseries itself, I mean.
The whole story was put into chapters where it was like, okay, we've got water-themed toys, so we'll go to the ocean. Oh, and we've got snow-themed toys, so let's go somewhere cold. Hence why Snowjob only appears when the Joes need to be somewhere cold. And he's once again driving the Polar Battle Bear. Which leads me to the question, if they show him on the vehicle so much in other media, why the hell didn't they just sell the figure with the toy?
And I can only think of one single reason.
Yeah, figure sold separately is code for give us more money.
It never ceases to amaze me how shamelessly greedy some people can be.
And that was Snow Job. Overall, some good toys and a pretty decent showing in other media. I am kinda disappointed there was only one toy in the original line, but considering other cold weather characters got shoved into the jungle-themed Tiger Force, it may have just been a blessing in disguise.
See you next time, everybody!
What would Blind Boy Tano do if he was here right now? He'd make a plan and he'd follow through. That's what Blind Boy Tano do.
When Blind Boy Tano was in the Olympics skating for the gold, he did 2 style cows and a triple, that's while wearing a blindfold.
When Blind Boy Tano was in the Alps,